coffee on me, and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume, and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Don't miss the ESPN Dayton Glacier Saltwater High School Football Game of the Week every Friday night, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byars and Justin Kinner will have the call all season long. Check out wingam.com for the complete schedule and to stream the games live. All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio. He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots.
Watch for the great block by Keith Byars on Pepper Johnson. Bam! Right there. Byars just nailed.
He's Dayton's own Keith Byars. It's the Keith Byars Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken on Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Welcome. You listen to the Keith Byars Radio Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. The phone number to call is 937-518-1410. One more time, 937-518-1410 is a phone number you can hit me to talk about your questions, comments, or concerns. And then you can also hit me on Twitter. Also, my Twitter handle, real simple, KAB41 is at twitter.com, and you can reach me on there. Well, man alive, I love coming in here on Monday, start the week off, start my day off, and love talking about sports, and got to be fired up. Buckeyes had the week off. I know you Buckeye fans just getting into the season. We're just now hitting our stride, and we had to take a week off before we get back to the grind. So that was fine. It gave us some time to look around the college football area and enjoy our Sunday afternoon football and Sunday night football, because we have some really good games. They're watching the NFL yesterday. Cincinnati Bengals, how are you for real? 1 week at a time. 1 week at a time. And, Cincinnati is tired of, being I wouldn't necessarily say laughing stocks, but being the joke in Ohio when you talk about football. Well, no more Bengals. Well, the Bengals are off to a really, really good start. They're off to a 4-2 start. They would have loved to be 5-1 or even possibly 6-0, but you just play one game at a time. And then you go to Northeast Ohio. Man, the Brown season hasn't started yet. They win 3, lose 3, so they're right at even par. For the road, but we got some more games to go. It's a long season, 17 games total, and we got 6 under our belt. So we'll talk about that, as well. Let me go back to the top of the news. I just want to just take a moment, this morning to, RIP to former Joint Chief of Staff, Colin Powell. He passed away this morning of. I know he had an incurable cancer, but, I had COVID related, but not COVID, died. But that's none. He was 84 years old. A tremendous, role model, for a lot of young men, not just in African American community, but all communities. I think, Colin Powell, politics aside, whether you got a D or R or I after your name, that doesn't matter as far as, when you're talking about an individual. And Colin Powell loves sports, but he's a great, role model for a lot of people, men and women. So he passed away, and that's going to be all over the news. So I just want to just take 20 seconds out to say, how much, service that he has given, to this country and to his family, and to a lot of individuals looked up to him, those who knew him and knew him from afar, or just knew him from watching him on television or reading his name in the newspaper. Is a great man, Colin Powell. Back to the sports world. Oh, Well, what do the Buckeyes do right now? Well, they got a big game. In all the game, I would say a big game. They're all big. When you talk about college football and football in general, they all matter. And Ohio State is somewhat, behind the 8 ball when you have an early season loss or any loss in your column, because you want to get to the top 10. You want to be in the top 4 in that college football playoffs. All you got to do is be one of the top 4 teams. You got a chance to win a national championship. And that's the era that we are in now, is winning the national championship. Big Ten is great. Not just nice, it's great to win the Big Ten. But you also have an opportunity to go on and win the next one. And you got to win the Big Ten for the most part to be eligible for the national championship. And the Buckeyes, these next 6 games, we're going to find an awful lot, about them. Don't forget, every Monday, I come out and I announce my top 10 teams of college football. I start doing that after the midway point. We passed the midway point. Last week, we hit 6 games. And some teams, Ohio State had a bye. Some teams got a bye this week. But correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, the college football playoff championship comes out a week from Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah, a week from tomorrow. The first official poll.
2 weeks from Tuesday.
2 weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay. Election day? Okay. So the first Tuesday in November is when the college football committee will release their first polls. And that's, important. The most important is be there when they release their last poll, when you want to be one of the final 4 teams that has an opportunity. So I like to release my poll after 6 weeks, so that when you get to that final week, you have an idea of if your team has a legitimate chance to make it. Did they get messed around, or did they never deserve? At least they was in the, the conversation. Well, when we're talking about Ohio State, they want to be the conversation, not be one of the teams in the conversation. They want to be in it. But we got a little ways before we start talking about the Final Four. Right now, let's talk about the top 10. The top 10 teams in college football, according to my matrix, and that's the only one that matters because to me, but I look around at others too. That does matter. I don't mean it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm not going to disrespect nobody else, nor will I let anyone else, disrespect my poll, because who is the poll made up of? Sports writers from around the country. And no offense, all sports writers do not know the game. A lot of them have, journalism degrees, and they write great articles, and that's great and fine and dandy. But a lot of the ins and outs of what is good and what is not good, what is deserving and what not deserving, that's not necessarily their bailiwick. Not that they can't write about it, but, they have to, repeat different things from what they've heard. And then, they go on and be educated, and then they try to, they place their votes. And I have no problem, with them, with the national writers, having a vote. But the only problem that I have when some people kind of question me from the standpoint, like, Keith, what do you know? So it's like funny. It's like walking into, an emergency room and asking the doctor, hey, doc, I've been watching all these medical programs on television. What do you really know in real life? And the doctor's going to laugh you out if you even get that far to even get to him in the operating room. You're going to get kicked out. So when we talk about knowledge of the game, and I'm not trying to be braggadocious or anything like that. It is what it is. I know it or I don't know it. And if I don't know something, I'll say it. And when I know something, I'm not going to downplay it, to make different national writers and local writers would not feel better. So I know what is good and what is not good. So not trying to be braggadocious or anything like that. So, and then don't call me biased. If I'm being biased, I'll tell you when I'm being biased. So, but, don't hit on me because I went to a great school, So that being said, let's get to the point. The top 10 teams of college football, according to Keith Byars. Number 10, Oklahoma State. Why Oklahoma State? Hey, they're undefeated. They're undefeated. They're up to this point, they're 6-0, and it has to be respected. And they play in a Power 5 conference. Remember, my list is going to change from week to week. And this is a great, exciting year of college football. Number 9. So number 10 is Oklahoma State. Number 9 is Oregon. The Oregon Ducks are number 9. They're winning. I'm going to say they're playing. Their high point of the season was week 2 when they beat the Buckeyes. So right now, but they're still winning. They have to get credits. They're 5-1. Number 8, the number 8 team in the country, the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Penn State, the lost to the number 2 country at the team in the country at the time. That was Iowa. And they walk into a bye. I'm sure they're very excited to play Illinois this week, and they're looking for some get back. That's number 18. The number 17, according to Keith Byars, is the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Yes, they whooped up on Mississippi State, Saturday, 49-9. They did what they were supposed to do. What they always do to them. But they had a tough loss. Just a few weeks ago, last week, they lost to a 2-loss unranked team, Texas A&M. Unranked. 2 losses. You got to slide Alabama. So you're sitting at 7. Number 6, that team up north, the Michigan Wolverines. They're undefeated, and they're coming off a bye week. They're coming off a bye week as well. And, they got Northwestern on Saturday. I expect them to win. I said I expect them to win. I hope they lose. But it's Michigan. They're the number 6 team in the country, according to Keith Byars. And the number 5 team in the country is Old Sparty, the other team in Michigan, or the team in Michigan, if you ask Mel Tucker. They are playing really good football. They had a trap game on Saturday, but they didn't step into the trap. They played through it. It wasn't pretty, but I've never seen an ugly victory. So necessarily wasn't pretty, just wasn't ugly. They won. They're undefeated. Michigan State is 7-0 and playing really, really good football. And they got a bye week this week, and then they come up. They got Michigan. That's going to be a heck of a game. But they got 2 weeks to prepare for it. So that's the 5th team. And number 14. The Ohio State University has moved up 4. Like, huh? How did they move up? They didn't even play this week. Hey, it happens. You have a bye week, and they improved during their bye week. They practicing, but you saw them the past 2 weeks. So Ohio State is number 4. Number 3 is Boomer Sooner. The Sooners, Oklahoma Sooners. They scored 52 points for the second week in a row, but they're giving up 31. Defense has got something to work on, and that means Ohio State defense also. But you got to reward, success. And Oklahoma playing in the Power 5 conference, their cross-state rivalry. Oklahoma State, that's the game where they call that Bedlam at the end of the season. So you got 2 teams in the Pac-8. I mean, I still in the Big 8. I love saying the Big 8 because that's what I used to saying. But it's a Pac-12, conference that are undefeated. And they're the number 3 team in the country. And I would say they got a little bit of a quarterback controversy, but not really. Caleb Williams is really playing good for us to be a true freshman. And the number 2 team in the country, according to Keith Byars. How about 2 teams in Ohio? And the first number 1 team is not the Buckeyes. Who else could it be? The Bearcats, they bearing down. Cincinnati. I did have them the number 2 team in the country. They just dismantled UCF this past Saturday, 56-21. Luke Fickell deserves a great deal of credit because if they was losing, he would deserve a great deal of blame. That's just the ebb and flow of being a head coach, in sports. Get too much blame when your team loses and probably too much credit when your team wins. So nevertheless, enjoy this credit. Luke Fickell, you're doing a heck of a job. Number 2 team in this country. I don't know, remember the last time Cincinnati was number 2 in the country. I'm sure I wasn't even born. But nonetheless, which leaves us one other pick left, and that is the Bulldogs of Georgia. They're the number 1 team in the country. Georgia had just a dismantling victory over Kentucky. When you have to rely on trickeration to try to even get a first down, you got problems when you just can't line up and knock people off the ball. And Kentucky had a pretty solid defense for a while, but their offense couldn't help them, and the defense got worn down. So Georgia 30-13 victory this past Saturday. I think the pathway is clear for Georgia all the way to the SEC championship game before they're going to be challenged again. And challenged they will be whoever represents the SEC West, and more than likely it's going to be Alabama. And then we'll find out how good they are. But that's the number one team in the country. One more time. Number 1 is Georgia. Number 2 is Cincinnati. Number 3 is Oklahoma. Number 4 is The Ohio State University. Number 5, Michigan State. Number 6, Michigan. 7, Alabama. 8, Penn State. 9, Oregon. And number 10, Oregon State. Who dropped out of my top 10? The Hawkeyes from Iowa. That's a heck of a drop for me to drop them from 2 to, I only talk about 10, but they're really 2 to 11. They're out of the top 10, according to me, and they play bad on both sides of the ball, special teams. It was at home. Was that a trap game to lose to Purdue like that? Ohio State knows a thing or two about losing to Purdue when you're number 2 team in the country, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. I'm trying to forget that 2018, that awful night. It's Saturday night in West Lafayette. I know my producer was at that game, and we're trying to forget that. We're trying to forget that game. But hey, this is the Big Ten. So the Big Ten has how many teams in the top 10 according to Keith Byars? They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten is a conference, guys. That is the strongest conference in college football this year. Every year, it's up to be changed. And really, every year, what is the strongest conference? It's always between the Big Ten and the SEC is the strongest conferences. The ACC has won some national championships. Yeah, you're talking about Clemson. And that is but the ACC has not ever been, I shouldn't say ever, that's a big word. In the last 20 plus years, they haven't had two strong teams at the same time in the last 25 years. You always have one good team and then a whole bunch of others and then really bad teams. No one can ever really, the ACC championship game, you don't even look for an upset because it's already decided before they even get there. So the ACC has been driven by Clemson, and when it wasn't Clemson, it was Florida State. The SEC, they have a couple national champions in the last 15 years, mostly Alabama, but Auburn has broken through as well as LSU. So it always comes down to not Penn State, the SEC and the Big Ten, and the Big Ten. The Pac-12, we're waiting for you to come back to prominence, and that, I don't think the Pac-12 is going to be what it is until USC or UCLA gets back. Not to mention Oregon State and Arizona State, when we got true competition out there again. And of course I'm not downplaying Oregon. Said competition, Oregon whipped you. Yes. But what did happen a couple of weeks later? They lost Stanford. But not trying to, lessen the loss that we had to Oregon State. And I say I'm talking about the Ohio State University. Because Ohio State is hard for me. I can separate them, but we win together, we lose together, and I'm still can take my other hat on is look at them from afar and rate them. So that's why they're the number 4 team in the country, after week 7. It's a long way to go. So don't panic. I'm going to post this on my social media also in a few moments. So people, don't panic. Whether I had Ohio State number 1 or number 120, it's all going to come down. You win. But not for everybody, because the system is flawed. And, I talk about how flawed the system is all the time. But today is not the day I'm going to get in, go too deep on that. It's a flawed system. I don't have to say trust me on it. You know it. So, but how do you beat one of the 4 teams? You do what Cincinnati's doing. Just go win. And then that's all you can do at the end of the day. I mean, a few years ago when University of Central Florida came out of the same conference, went undefeated, beat Auburn, an SEC team in the bowl game, and they had no invitation to the Final Four. Yet at the end of the season, they still hung a national championship banner in their stadium and celebrate. I think the players on the team got rings also. And I think that's great. And I would hate for that to happen to Cincinnati this year. And, that's why it's real interesting. In a couple of weeks when the polls come out, and if Cincinnati holds to form and just win, whether they win by 1 point or 20 points, as long as they win, will Cincinnati be ranked in the top 4? And if they win out and win their conference, will they How do you go from the number 2 team, so once the polls come out, and win your conference and then drop out of the top 4? I just don't, I don't see how that can happen. No matter how, I don't care if Cincinnati has all 1-point wins between now and the end of their season, they would still, in my opinion, deserve a seat at the table. But you don't always get what you deserve. I mean, if Ohio State is out there scoring, beating their opponents in a submission by 2 and 3 touchdowns, Alabama doing the same, and Oklahoma's defense wakes up and they start doing it. Yeah, that's 3 teams I just mentioned that would probably be there. Would Cincinnati be the 4th? I don't know. I don't know, especially if you're trying to put 2 teams from the Big Ten or 2 teams from the SEC in there. What would happen? It would happen. And, I don't know what that answer is, but it's something I've been, harping on the last few weeks. I mean, not just in, not weeks, in the years, as far as the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten needs to realign because the Big Ten East champion is always, for the most part, going to represent the Big Ten. I'm trying to think, when was the last time, since we've been going to East and West, Justin, help me out. Has the Big Ten West won the Big Ten? No. Never. Since we've been East-West, the Big Ten West has never won the Big Ten.
Wisconsin's come close, but no.
Yeah, I mean,
because Penn State
Iowa was there.
Who did Penn State play in the Big Ten title game that year?
I think it was Iowa.
So it was but they beat Iowa because Penn State was Big Ten champions that year, and then they still put Ohio State in the playoffs. So no one on that side has. Every year, obviously, there's a representative in the Big Ten title game, but Wisconsin should be the team that should benefit from that weak alignment on that side. They should be just sitting there, just every year sitting there. And Northwestern's actually had more of a successful run during this playoff era as far as being, present in the Big Ten title game than Wisconsin. So that is kind of interesting when you think about it. I think Wisconsin is really not taking advantage of that opportunity the way that they could have.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly believe that. I think they need to, the East is, I shouldn't say it's too strong, but you would have more of a balance of power. And not when I say that, well, who would you move? And I would move Penn State and Michigan State. Mm-hmm. One of those 2, but preferably both of those. But if not, certainly Michigan State, and then choose between Rutgers and Maryland. Or Indiana and Purdue. They're already split. One, Purdue's in the West, Indiana's in the East. So leave that alone. Yet they still play the last game of the season, the old Oaken bucket, I think, whatever they call it. Michigan and Michigan State, makes sense because they will still play each other once a year.
Yeah, and excuse me, outside of the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, no other rivalry in the Big Ten is big enough to where you have to not realign at the mercy of preserving those. I mean, if you're trying to preserve the nature of those rivalries outside of Ohio State, Michigan, at the expense of realigning to do what's best for the conference to give yourself a chance. I mean, I know we can't stand the SEC and the bias that's thrown their way, but they are fortunate because their Wisconsin is Georgia, and Georgia balls out every year.
Yeah,
so,
but Georgia,
you know what I mean?
Georgia never plays Alabama in the regular season.
But that's what I'm saying is Wisconsin. but we would see that with Penn State. Imagine if Penn State never had to play Ohio State in the regular season, and if Penn State's only loss comes against a close loss to Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, then the Big Ten would be potentially having 2 teams in the mix every year. Georgia and Alabama are always in the mix every year because more times than not, they're undefeated in the SEC title game. And then they do the whole, well, their only loss is against the number 1 team in the country, so we can't just boot them out.
Yeah, it's rigged for them.
But it's rigged for them, but that's their conference alignment. The Buckeyes, the Big Ten.
Yes, because they need to realign as well. Yeah. I mean, because they got one team over there, that's, them in Florida. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Big Ten West, for the most part, it's Wisconsin and a little bit of Northwestern. So,
and even when Northwestern gets there, you're talking about a 2-3 loss team every time they get there. They're not the equivalent to Georgia, who's regularly there waiting for Alabama at the end. I would love to see Penn State on that other side. I think that would give them that true 1-2 punch that the SEC has, that would always put the Big Ten in position to flirt with the possibility of 2 teams getting in. The Big Ten will never get 2 teams in, even with Penn State on the side of Ohio State, because Ohio State beats them in the regular season, keeps Penn State out of the Big Ten title game, and then Ohio State will beat up on this other team from the other side. It just never opens up a lane for 2 to get in.
I mean, a couple of years ago, Ohio State had to beat Wisconsin twice. And
that was just because that one random year that they play in the regular season. Yeah,
exactly. But if it randomly happened, Ohio State played Penn State in the regular season, and that's either one of the teams only lost, and then they got a rematch in the Big Ten championship game. Wow. You know,
oh yeah, I know
that would be awesome. That would be awesome. But the Big Ten needs to take a long, hard look at that, and I would maybe even put it on a 10 or 15 year, contract where we'll look at this again every 10 years. Because you can't make it. This is going to be the next time in eternity. This is what it is. No, just don't box yourself in the hole. Do it every 10, 15 years. We'll look at it again. And
that's why I get mad at conference. And by the way, the playoff, I get so many people want it to expand, but I feel like conferences spend too much time standing back complaining about the format, as opposed to all that time that you're complaining about the format. You could be meeting to say, okay, could we realign? Can we move teams around? What can we do scheduling wise? What can we do positioning wise to position our conference to give our top programs a better chance at having undefeated records towards the end of the season? For the Big Ten, rather than complaining about the SEC, which I'm not saying they're wrong for doing, but you can't control that. You can't control the bias. You can't control what they're doing. You can control your alignment. You can control putting Penn State on that side. So do everything you can to position your conference for that. And then if you start saying, oh, that doesn't help your conference because of their biases, then you have an even louder mic to speak through. But for right now, I don't feel like the Big Ten's doing everything they can to position their conference.
I'm sure Michigan State would run to the West.
And they would be another, especially with Tucker doing what he's doing right now.
The only reason why I didn't say Michigan is because college football is about tradition also. No one that you don't want to luster the regular season Ohio State Michigan game, then have to repeat it in the Big Ten championship game the following week. It has to be, a price to pay, in that game. Would it be a perfect world? Well, I shouldn't say a perfect world, but Ohio State and Michigan are undefeated. They play each other, 1-2 team in the country. One loses, other goes to the Big Ten championship and wins. Now, do you put them, because similar to what's going on now with Alabama and Georgia, those 2 blue bloods, you can get back in there. Whoever loses, there still should be an entryway for them to make the playoffs, especially if they've been dominating all year. And folks, I'm talking about a flawed system. I'm not talking about a perfect system. This is a flawed system. This is what we have. But like you're saying, just to your point, if you just look at yourself, what can the Big Ten do to improve their conference? And part of it is marketing and selling it and things of that nature, whereas the SEC does a tremendous job of that. But we know, and I'm looking at these teams in the SEC West. Missouri has went to the championship game a few times shortly after they joined the SEC, but had no shot at winning. Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Tennessee, this is Kentucky's best year in 20 or 30 years. They're not going to really get there. So it always comes down to Florida and Georgia, who's going to represent, the East. And they need to look within themselves and add or take away, one of those teams. Maybe one of the Mississippis go over there, and then you choose between Auburn and LSU to make the swap, or maybe Auburn, LSU, or Texas A&M. One of y'all got to go east. You then figure out who you are. Because I always, I've asked the question many times in the last, almost coming up with 40 years, how many teams in the SEC have actually won the title? And it's not that many. It's not that many. In last since, let's go 40 years, 41 years since Herschel Walker, Georgia won it. Tennessee won it once. Florida has won it. Alabama, Auburn, and LSU. That's where it ends. No, I want to say Arkansas won once. So not very many, whereas in the Big Ten, every team since 1980 has won the Big Ten at least once, save you, Indiana and Minnesota. Every other team has won the Big Ten. That includes Purdue. That includes Illinois. Everybody else in the Big Ten has won the conference. So when you talk about strength of your conference from top to bottom, it's not just dominated by one person and one team. Well, I'm not even counting Maryland, Rutgers, because they haven't been long enough in the conference long enough. And even when Penn State's first year in the conference, they won it. But they've been in over 20 years now. Man, time flies when I say it out loud. But let's go to break because time is flying. I need to get to break. And we're going to talk some more college football, maybe some, but we got to talk about the professional leagues also. The NFL is really, really shaping up to be some kind of marathon of a season where every week, wow, it's not too early to start thinking playoffs. You listen to the Keith Byars radio show presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
Introducing the latest innovation in water technology. The new Nebia by Moen Quattro Showerhead offers 4 unique experiences to choose from, designed to soothe, clarify, relieve, and cleanse. An indulgent shower experience engineered to use up to 50% less water. Water designs our life. Who designs for water? Visit Moen.com to learn more.
I'm Serena Williams. You watch me live on TV.
And I'm that voice from movies you watch on demand. DirecTV Stream brought us together to save the world.
Maybe not save the world, but DirecTV Stream does bring your live and on-demand favorites together.
Your favorites together.
I just said that.
She just said that.
Introducing DirecTV Stream, the best of live TV and on-demand with no annual contract. Get your TV together at DirecTV.com.
Requires high-speed internet and compatible device. Content varies by package and location. Restrictions apply.
College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byars here to tell you about OGW Energy Resources. If you own a home or a business and want to save money, then going solar with OGW Energy Resources is the way to go. OGW Energy Resources have been helping the Miami Valley save money by going solar for over 14 years. There is no better time than now to look into going solar. For more information, check out their website at ogwenergyresources.com. Go solar today. OGW Energy Resources. Your energy, your future. Control it.
Whether you're vaccinated or not, it's important to know the symptoms of COVID and its variants. Fever is the leading sign of COVID and the flu, so make sure you use an accurate thermometer. Only the Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Non-contact thermometers have no clinical evidence behind them and are not reliable. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Hey, I'm College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byars, and I'm here with John Glazier from Glazier Soft Water. Did you know we are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes?
Yes, I did. But did you know that Glazier Soft Water is the home of the 7-year, worry-free parts and labor warranty? We've been making water great since 1988. What were you doing in 1988?
That was my 3rd year in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles. I had 10 touchdowns that season, and we made the playoffs in 1988.
So you can say that we both have been doing great since 1988. Glazier Soft Water. Glazier Water is better water.
Looking for a career and not just a job? Then Dayton Progress is looking for you. Dayton Progress is the leading international manufacturer of tools and tooling components for the metal stamping industries and has immediate openings for their entry-level machinists. No prior experience is required, and Dayton Progress will train you, starting with the basics. They offer competitive wages starting at $15 per hour and up to $18 per hour with prior experience. New hires are eligible for merit increases after 90 days of employment. They also offer private health care, including vision and and dental, free life insurance, a contributory 401k, promotions from within, company service recognition, and 100% tuition reimbursement to local state colleges. Dayton Progress is a great place to work and has been a Dayton landmark for over 70 years. Apply today by emailing your resume to jobs@DaytonProgress.com. That's jobs@DaytonProgress.com. Dayton Progress is an equal opportunity employer.
OHMB 803342 and MLS 304138. Do you need help with a loan to purchase or refinance your home? Have you applied for a home loan and been told you do not qualify for a loan? Are you a first-time buyer and have questions regarding the home buying process? Are you considering refinancing your existing home? Do you live in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Florida, or South Carolina? If you answered yes to any of the above questions, you need to call Forrest Ferris at 3rd Street Financial Home Loans at 513-320-5911, who is available 7 days a week to help you. We're 3rd Street Financial Home Loans, and Forrest Ferris specializes in approving home loans banks and other lenders cannot or will not approve. Some of our clients might have low credit scores, been through a divorce, want to buy a home for sale by owner, are in a land contract, or dealing with probate or estate homes. Call Forrest now for a free estimate. 513-320-5911. That's 513-320-5911. Offer valid for purchase or refinancing of homes located in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Florida, and South Carolina only. Minimum loan amount $60,000. Limitations and restrictions apply.
Gathering your family around the dinner table for a home-style meal from Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken is the perfect way to end a fall day. At Lee's, homestyle happens here with our 12-piece family meal for only $32.99. You'll get 12 mixed pieces of Lee's fresh, never-frozen Famous Recipe Chicken that's honey-dipped, hand-breaded, and pressure-cooked to perfection, served up with 3 large sides and 6 fluffy biscuits. Get a homestyle meal made easy with Lee's 12-piece family meal for only $32.99. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
Help DEA keep our community safe and healthy by participating in National Prescription Drug Takeback Day, October 23rd. Visit DEATakeback.com.
Okay, my shipments have to get to customers on time and looking good.
It's possible with Staples Connect. Staples Connect has small business shipping covered with premium shipping supplies and UPS shipping services. And now, buy 2 get 1 free on select shipping supplies like bubble roll and premium shipping boxes. Plus, get 20% off UPS Express shipping services. Explore what's new at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com. Staples Connect, the working and learning store. Ends 10/30. Visit staplesconnect.com/shipping for details.
Hi, I'm Sales Manager Jason High at Germain Honda Beaver Creek, proud recipient of the prestigious President's Award. We are your local Honda dealer, and we invite you to see our newly renovated state-of-the-art facility. You'll be amazed at our selection, and remember, all new Hondas come with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Visit us at Route 35, just east of 675, conveniently located near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Germain Honda Beaver Creek, the right car, the right price, the right way. I'll see you soon.
Gathering your family around the dinner table for a home-style meal from Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken is the perfect way to end a fall day. At Lee's, homestyle happens here with our 12-piece family meal for only $32.99. You'll get 12 mixed pieces of Lee's fresh, never-frozen Famous Recipe Chicken that's honey-dipped, hand-breaded, and pressure-cooked to perfection, served up with 3 large sides and 6 fluffy biscuits. Get a homestyle meal made easy with Lee's 12-piece family meal for only $32.99. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring Class A CDL drivers. $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight. Apply today at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
What makes AutoZone America's #1 battery destination? Because they offer free battery testing and charging and reliable replacement batteries, and they've always got your battery solution. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
You want more local content from Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM? Make sure you subscribe to the WING 1410 Dayton YouTube channel, where you can watch all your local shows live or go back and rewatch previous episodes of The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, The Keith Byars Show, Talking Out Loud with Sully, and more. College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Byars Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio. He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer.
Look at him go! He simply runs out of his shoe. He's running so fast.
And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots.
Watch for the great block by Keith Byars on Pepper Johnson. Bam! Right there.
He's Dayton's own Keith Byars. It's the Keith Byars Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken on Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back. This is to the Keith Byars Radio Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. The phone number is 937-518-1410, or you can hit me at KAB41 on your Twitter if you're at work and, you don't want your boss to get on you, and you just tweet it out there, and I'll try to answer your questions. Well, before the break, I need to talk about the professional football leagues. Man, those Cincinnati Bengals, hey, wow. Playing good football, 4-2. How many had the Bengals 4-2 after 6 games this summer? Don't answer all at once. But they had their best game of the season, statistically, where everybody called it a trap game. Not everybody, but a few of us called it a trap game. And the Bengals didn't step in the trap. They said, Detroit, we know you're 0-5, but this is not the week to get your first victory. So now you're 0-6. Well done, by the Cincinnati Bengals. They jumped on them early and often and got the job done. I was one in the offseason, I love, Jamar Chase, his first receiver, and taking off the board in the draft. And I'm like, do the Bengals really need a receiver? I think he'll do well here, but it doesn't matter if Joe Burrows is on his back. Draft a lineman. We can get another receiver later. So far, so good. They went with the receiver. But I tell you, Jamar Chase didn't necessarily have the best of training camp. Talking about stripes on the ball and had a lot of drops, but we haven't seen that one, once the season has started. And I think after 6 weeks, I think he has the potential to be a complete player as long as his love and the hunger stays for the game. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about his catches he had yesterday. I'm going to talk about his block. That block he had on the touchdown run, his willingness to sacrifice, his body. It was Justin Evans had a touchdown. I love seeing that because that shows your unselfishness. When I was in my rookie year with the Philadelphia Eagles, we had a backup wide receiver. We had a first year coach also. Me and Buddy Ryan came there at the same time, but the backup receiver said, "Man, I'm a receiver. I block. I don't like to block. I catch the ball. I don't block." And Buddy Ryan basically, read that in the paper because he was talking to a reporter and the reporter printed it. And so Buddy Ryan just accommodated. Well, I understand. You can do that, but you won't do that here. And he got cut. So he said, receivers I hear puts the block and catch the ball, complete receivers. So I loved seeing that out of Jamar Chase, yesterday. It's not about me, it's about us. And that's how winning teams are doing it. And the Bengals, enjoy the pats on the back. It's hard to win in this league. So when you win, enjoy it. Great win for the Bengals. You got the Baltimore Ravens, this Sunday. Hey, so what? And it was a trap game because everybody said, you're going to be looking ahead to the Ravens and forget about the Lions. Well, they didn't step in the trap. They got the victory on to Baltimore. You saw what Baltimore did to the Chargers yesterday. That's going to be a heck of a game. Heck of a game. Flip over to turn the page real quick. I want to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland. You can still hear my head coach, Bill Parcells, in my ear. We are what our record says we are. And that's average. That's 500. That's average. 3 wins, 3 losses. And yesterday, USC was playing the undefeated 5-0 Arizona Cardinals. But they're no longer 5-0. They're 6-0 now after yesterday. At any point after watching that game, did I say, are the Browns even par with them? Or it felt like the Browns was playing catch up the whole game, even from the time they kicked the opening kickoff. It was like you're climbing uphill the whole game. You never got on level ground to feel that okay, we can win this game. We get back in this thing. It just never, ever happened. You contrast that. I don't know if you guys, saw the Cowboys and New England Patriots. The Cowboys heavily favored in New England to beat them. And, man, New England was not joking. They was, they punched the Cowboys in the mouth. Cowboys come back, oh, man, you're nothing. Punched them back. They, they hit them again. Cowboys tied it up, and then it was just like, clearly the Cowboys were the better team, on paper and on the field. But the Patriots never quit, and they had a chance to win the game in overtime. Came up short, but nevertheless, it was a tough interception that Mac Jones threw, and then, Dak Prescott won the game on a game-winning touchdown in overtime. But you have got to enjoy the fight and the resilience that the Patriots put out there. And, so they knew on paper they weren't supposed to be in the game, but it was not an uphill battle. They made the Cowboys work. And they're not even a playoff team from last year. Cleveland Browns, you were a playoff team last year. The expectation level was higher for you than the New England Patriots. And you're not doing it. It's not the end of the world that you're 3-3. A whole lot of people wouldn't mind being 3-3 right now. Say the Detroit Lions would love to be 3-3. But guys, you have to do, and you're Cleveland Browns fans, don't lose hope. The season is far from over. But where you can't wait, okay, we get them next week, you're going to run out of weeks. And next thing you know, you're going to be mathematically not in it. You're a quarter of the way through the season now. We're 5 games in of 17. We're at that point where it's, okay, are we as good as we thought we were, or are we as bad as we thought we are? And after 4 or 5 games of the season, you kind of developing what your season is going to be. Not what it's, what it could be. And that's both sides, especially if you're 6-0 and 5-1, and you say, hey, man, oh, yeah, we got an excellent chance to make the playoffs. Whereas if you're 0-5 and 1-4, well, the playoffs probably not in our schedule. Let's return this thing around real quick. It can still happen in both ways. Look at the Steelers last year, 11-0, and fell flat on their face from there on. So the AFC North last year put 3 teams in the playoffs. I think it's without fear of contradiction, I could say that's not going to happen this year. Not because, you're not good enough. It's just other teams are better. And it's going to be a dogfight. I know the Patriots are 2-4, but it's not out of the realm for them to turn that around, especially by the time we get to week 10 or week 11, the Patriots could be somewhere like 6-5. That's not necessarily a 2-4 football team. I think Buffalo right now is the inside, to win the AFC East at this point of the season. The AFC North, it's a coin toss this weekend to tell us something, because the Browns and the Bengals haven't played nobody in the AFC North except the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cleveland Browns have not played anybody. So the Pittsburgh hasn't played anybody other than the Bengals. So we're about to get into some divisional play over the next month. And that's going to really shake things out of who's going to be the front runner of that division, who's going to win that division, who's going to be the runner up. Because I'm saying I really don't think 3 teams from the AFC North is going to make the playoffs. I really don't. The AFC South, that's going to be a dogfight. I mean, don't count out Indianapolis. They're 2-4. Pretty darn good 2-4 football team. They had the Ravens the other night. They had the Rams, on the ropes a couple of weeks ago. Don't count them out. That's all I'm saying. Tennessee, big game tonight. You in Buffalo, so it's tightening up. The AFC West. We got the Raiders and the Chargers both at 4-2. Denver's 3-3. Kansas City 3-3. Kansas City 3-3. Kansas City, they're getting the same speech there that I just gave the Cleveland Browns. Who are you? That Super Bowl was 2 years ago. It seems like 20. Last year they was in the Super Bowl. Doesn't even seem like it. But we're going to find out who you are. That was a big, nice win that the Chiefs got in Washington yesterday. Now let's flip over to the NFC real quick. The NFC North. NFC North. Green Bay lost the first game, looked atrocious. Man, they've won 5 in a row since then. Minnesota, boy, I bet you the Bengals are happy they got that W. That's a good 3-3 football team. Chicago Bears, 3-3. Rookie quarterback Justin Fields from here on out. I'm not saying they're gonna make the playoffs, but they got a good chance of finishing second, in that division. And Detroit at 0-6, unless something drastically totally happens over the next 10, 11 games, Detroit, they're gonna probably be, top 5 team on the draft clock. NFC South. Tampa, they are right now the pride of that division. At 5-1. New Orleans is 3-2. Carolina, Sam Darnold is kind of reviving his career, but they're 500. Tough loss yesterday. The Atlanta Falcons, it's time to Matty Ice, trying to put him on ice, started going in a different direction, at the quarterback position and in the coaching for mine in Atlanta. I don't think they're not getting better. They're, it's not much. NFC West, Arizona Cardinals, the Rams, San Francisco and Seattle. Rams are 2-3, Seattle 2-4. It's going to be tough for Seattle to make the playoffs. They got a lot of ground to hold, especially with Russell Wilson being out. But Geno wasn't horrible yesterday. He wasn't horrible. I just don't know what Chris Collinsworth was talking about last night when he said, "Wow, they really missed." I didn't realize how big of a loss that Russell Wilson was without them. That's so disrespectful and just clueless to make that comment. Russell Wilson is one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the National Football League. Run up for MVP last year. And, and perennially, that's his first game he missed in his career. And you're saying that 2 things. Either I don't want to get on Chris Collins. He's not that important to talk about. But really, Chris, really, that's one of the only thing I will say, and I'm not necessarily in defense of Chris Collinsworth. It's just more or less when you play in a city like Seattle, you could be, Michael Jordan and you're in Seattle, you still won't get with everything you love. I always look at like Michael Jordan and Clyde Drexler. At one point in their career, especially their first 3 or 4 years in the league, they were doing about the same thing, pretty much parallel. But one's in Chicago, others in Portland, and it's really hard to get your national attention the same way you could in a major market like Chicago, compared that to Seattle. But if Russell Wilson played in New York, Philadelphia, any East Coast city, or Los Angeles, be a little different how much we know how great a player that he is. And the last division I need to talk about is last year was the NFC least. This year, it's just the NFC East. It's not a beast of a division yet. It's just the NFC East. I think, unless something drastically happens to the Cowboys, and I hate to give them love, but I got to be fair, they're the best team right now in the division. Hope you got that on tape, Justin. I won't say that too often. At 5-1, Washington football team at 2-4, the Eagles 2-4, and the Giants 1-5. That may only be one team that makes the playoffs. I don't think that team will get a wild card. That division is going to get a wild card. I doubt it. My Eagles are still searching for who they are. Jalen Hurts, he hasn't arrived yet as a quarterback, but we're being patient. Washington's still looking for a quarterback. I don't know Cam Newton is vaccinated, guys. He is vaccinated. He's only 32. You tell me he can't help nobody in no football team? All of Carolina is now in Washington. I don't know what's going on there, but Cam Newton is available. But in the meantime, the playoffs are not that far away, but it's not. So after a quarter of the season is complete, I'm still not ready to say who is my inside edge of which conference you're going to represent in the Super Bowl. Who's going to come out of AFC? Who's going to come out of the NFC? I don't know. I don't know. You know, I know the next time, I know the Cowboys would love to play Tampa in the playoffs in Dallas. It's just like Tampa wouldn't mind playing Dallas in Tampa, you know, but I think it's 4 teams easily can represent the NFC conference between the Cowboys, Tampa, not totally sold on Green Bay, but Arizona, don't count them out. And then in the AFC, you know, Buffalo, Baltimore, and Tennessee. I'm not worried about the Raiders and the Chargers just yet, but that's the early prediction, not prediction, who's going to represent each conference in the Super Bowl. But in the meantime, and in between time, get out and do random acts of kindness for your fellow man. And let's continue to stamp out systematic racism in every shape, form, or fashion, so it doesn't have no place here in our society. God bless. See you next time.
It's the Keith Byars Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, right here on Dayton's home of the Buckeyes, 1410 ESPN.